As the showdown with Texas gets closer and closer for our Ohio State Buckeyes, it was certainly really fun to listen to Jeremiah Smith, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, and Ryan Day at the Big Ten Media Days. And if you didn't follow along yesterday with everything and what was happening, it was really incredible to hear the words from Ryan Day, to reminisce a little bit on last season. But what was great for us was we've already had that time to enjoy and celebrate that win. But it's the look ahead now. We're about a month away, 5 weeks from that showdown with Texas, 5 weeks from Saturday. The main takeaway is that if you're a big fan of number 4, like I am, it's Ryan Day's words about him when asked about the development. You know, you're coming off of an All-American type season for Jeremiah Smith, and people are touting him to be a Heisman finalist this year, maybe even win it. And for Ryan to essentially clarify all of that and even more so by saying, if you're familiar with Jeremiah Smith and you've seen him recently, it's like he's bigger, stronger, and faster than what he was a year ago. And we have to remind ourselves, and he said it very well, better than I ever could, was that he was there with Jeremiah, Sonny, and Caleb there at the Mandalay Bay, and he had to check them in, right? They're all under 21 years old, and sometimes we forget seeing how they are just so developed and look like grown 28, 29-year-old NFL players, and the fact that Jeremiah Smith is going to be turning 20 years old when it gets to late November, and the fact that he's still just a true sophomore and coming into his own, and that the ceiling is so far away to be untapped for him. To look ahead for the Buckeyes this year, obviously so many players to fill into new roles. There's a lot of guys that have been there. McClain, Kenyatta Jackson, Edric Houston, Caden Curry on that defensive line that we know and as well as in the defense like McClain, Jermaine Matthews, that will be stepping into roles where they were able to get playing time, which is obviously so huge for Ohio State in those matchups where you can get in those guys with reps. We saw Caden Curry with a sack against Oregon in that Rose Bowl, number 92. Everyone was having a field day, and as we know, Brendan Inniss didn't get that many targets, but he came away with a touchdown in the game against Penn State. He had a big score there in the first half. So going into next year, and of course the showdown with Texas is large, but I want to look a little bit further ahead than just what the week 1 matchup is, because to be honest, Ryan said this game could even just come down to the bouncing of a football. Not to say one team could be better than the other, but they might end up losing that first game of the season. It's the trajectory and how close this battle is with Julian Sayin and Luken Kienholz. I think that it's possible Julian Sayin could come away with a win, play decently well, but not wind up being the starter when we get to that game at home against Penn State. That he could have his struggles. Obviously, there's always the possibility of injury. So listening to Ryan, and I don't know about the rest of the audience. We're still trying to build out this brand as bringing that Ohio State community together, as other people watching this that are truly just interested in the news and what's happening around Ohio State, because it's one of the blue bloods, one of the biggest brands in college football, and always will be, is how humble he spoke and how forward-thinking the trajectory was. Speaking of, Tony Petitti and the work he has done with the Big Ten, he spoke, frankly, on the desk there on the Big Ten Network about how the best formats he thinks for college football is truly, the automatic qualifiers, and then 4-4 for the SEC, the Big Ten, the 2-2 for the ACC and the Big 12, as well as the 1-1-1 for the 3 at-larges. And that's been one of the main topics. And if we really break it down simply enough, this video is not about the format. It's about the culmination and, of course, the look ahead for Ohio State in college football towards the start of next season. It's really the best for college football. It helps the Big Ten in the sense is the SEC is a lot deeper. They have 8-9 teams that can make the playoff next year in the Big Ten, that you could sort of cap that around 6 or 7 for sure. You could make an argument for Nebraska or Michigan or for Indiana, of course, Illinois, but that's about it, of course, behind the big 3 next year, with Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State being the true tier 1, the top heavy powers of the conference. If there are any Michigan fans, I'm sorry to say, and putting Michigan already in that other tier, even though they're both with first-year starters in Julian Sayin and Bryce Underwood, the amount of talent back for Ohio State is enough to say that you could put them still in that tier 1 and not below an echelon of what Penn State is with turning all those players. This format for the ACC and the Big 12, we saw them get 3 teams last year. And if we go ahead the next 10 years in a format that is where you're getting the automatics, it's first of all you're going to have more teams every single year than what you had in 2024, where you get an automatic 4 teams in the playoff, and then the at-larges where you have the chance to get 5 or 6 in. If the conference is truly as balanced as what the coaches have talked about, as what the commissioner has spoken about, and I see it as well as the ACC, Miami, and Clemson. You've got these top dogs. And then behind that, you can see Georgia Tech having a very good year this year. I've got them ranked number 17 in sort of like my preseason poll of my expectation for them being a 9-3, maybe even a 10-2 caliber team next year. And then right behind them is SMU. And you see what the ACC is, and you have to compare the ACC to the SEC in terms of the teams getting in. The SEC this year, most likely you get 9 wins in that conference now. That is the baseline of what it's going to take to get into the playoff with all the strength of schedule and the lean. If you expand this thing a little bit in a team like the Ohio State Buckeyes, where they would honestly, we'd be happy. As Ohio State Buckeye fans, we would simply be fine with the thing expanding where it's a 16-team playoff. 5 automatic qualifiers, the 4 first-round buys to the top 4 highest-ranked teams in the country. Buckeyes are getting in that thing 89 out of 100 years for the next century, or even more than that. We're going to be making it every single year. It's not like us. It's not in our nature to go out and vote against us. This other format with the 4 automatic could even see the Bucks be in it less, but it's the scope of college football. And that's really what I wanted to come on here and talk about, was that as Ohio State fans, people do look to us more often than not to, of course, share our perspective and what we believe. But when you're an Ohio State fan, it is not just about Buckeye Nation and that standard. It is about being good fans, being knowledgeable, understanding the scope of the game and how important that scarlet symbol is, and how important it is to have that sense of community. When we head towards the start of the year, we reflect on what last season was. And it was a true disappointing experience, seeing all of the negative talk about Ryan Day, death threats, absolutely bull crap heading towards this way. A guy that has done nothing but win for Ohio State. Obviously, the losses to Michigan is a problem, and still remains an issue, even though you won the national championship 4 years in a row, but had a little bit more faith in Buckeye Nation after that game. There would be more support. Of course, he gets the extension at the end of the season to remain the coach long term. It's just, I know a select few within the community of Buckeye fans that are like, if Ryan Day loses to Michigan again, fire him. The rivalry is more important than winning the national championship. Why you play college football is, of course, to beat your rivals, try and win the conference, and win national titles. It's just been that matchup for whatever reason. People have spoken about it. I don't have to go into length. Something happens in the mentality of showing up for that game, and it changes the way that the game is coached, the way that the game is played by the players out there between the lines. But Texas week 1, and that is a true, I guess, measuring stick of where this team is at, but you really don't see a red flag of a matchup until what we're going to get week 4 at Washington at Husky Stadium, which could be a raucous environment, expecting improvement out of Jedfish Huskies to be a better team. And so a loss to Texas week 1, you can live with that this year. It does look, again, it's as if last year is a perfect benchmark that a 2-loss Big Ten team is going to be in the college football playoff in the expanded era every single time. So, of course, like we talked about earlier, incredible to hear from Coach Day. Didn't speak a whole lot about, Jeremiah Smith's words or what Caleb Downs or what Sonny Styles were saying, because, frankly, it's maybe a hot take, but they don't have the most interesting things to say. It's a lot of player or coach speak, and we you almost have a little bit of hype going into it, and then you hear not the most interesting things, and you really don't want to. And you have players that are high profile now, and they're basically celebrities to us and around the nation, hundreds of thousands of followers, and are true brands. It's fine if they're boring when they're in front of the microphone. They are meant to be unboring on the football field, to make big splash plays, to get us up out of our seats, to get us up off the couch. I personally sort of embody the Ohio State sort of theme. Is when I'm watching a Buckeye game, I don't sit down for a single snap. Just like, there in Columbus at the shoe, no one sits down for a single snap, no matter what the score is. When I was at the Rose Bowl game there, Ohio State, Oregon, one of the most, probably the best day of my life, in all honesty, just incredible. It was just great to see people from all parts of the country on that Ohio State sideline, and everyone it was as if it was a game at the shoe on that side. Everybody up deep into the fourth quarter. People are still being loud, stressing, can feel the game churning, and knew it was going to be in hand at that point. It was incredible, and all that momentum. Just want everybody to remember that college football is meant to have a lack of continuity in general, for it to be straight chaos. That's a number of the reasons why a lot of people like college football more than the NFL. Here on Blitz with Blender, we cover both a lot, so expect to see a lot more Ohio State content out of me. Please let me know in the comments if there are specific topics with Ohio State, within the Big Ten, in college football, or in the National Football League you want me to cover. We're going to continue coming out with a bunch of Ohio State content here going forward. As you can see, the Bears stuff in the background, I happen to be a Bears and Ohio State fan. I know the combination is interesting, to say the least. They are in the Midwest, so I guess that's what makes sense. But yeah, you're going to be seeing both of those, and going to just be supporting our boys and getting set for 2025. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you like and subscribe for more coming out in the future, and I will see you next time. Go Bucks!
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blender, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blender.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.